Man, you can't trust those DNA test results. They're not accurate. It's not a perfect science. It's a scam, man. It's a scam. End quote. That is me quoting random people who watch my videos, and I get that comment from random people 2 or 3 times a week. Now here's what's funny about that to me. Why would you waste your time watching a video that's clearly about DNA test results if you believe it's all fake results anyway, and that those tests are a scam? Why would you even watch the video, spend time to do that, and then leave a comment? Why? That's funny to me. But what I want to address today is, I believe the DNA tests are accurate. I went through MyHeritage, and that's not even one of the most popular ones, but that's who I went through. Every member of my family has taken one. My dad's taken 2 different ones. Actually paid money for 2 different ones just to be sure to test these things out. And here's the thing, they're plenty consistent enough. What I want to do is I want to first share with you my expectations of what I thought I was, and then I want to share with you my actual results. And you'll see that in my case, it was legit. And I think part of the problem is a lot of people have DNA similar to my dad's, 99% Northern European, so it's really hard to say, no, that can't be true, because, you know, there's no, the family tree only goes back so far and then we don't know anything. But with my mom's side of the family, it was different. Conveniently, for both sides of my mom's family, they came here from somewhere else. So we already knew the answer to some degree. So I'm going to share with you what I thought I was versus what I actually am. And then I'm going to explain the margin for error, because sometimes that part of the test that's wrong is actually something we didn't know, despite what we thought we knew. And going into this, it's like the concept of people who would say, well, don't you think if I were wrong, I'd know it? Of course you wouldn't. People who are wrong never think that they're going to be wrong. Okay? So that's the thing. A lot of people blame it on the test when it doesn't back up what they thought was real. Just like so many people think that they're Native American, that they had a great-grandmother who was half Cherokee, and then they find out it's not true. They wanted to be something exotic, especially if it makes them feel better about America's history. Here we go. Growing up, here's what I always assumed about myself. So on my mom's side, her grandparents, well, I'll put it this way. Her mother's parents moved here from Mexico, southern Mexico. My mom's father's side came here from Italy. So her parents were born in America, but their parents, which would be my great-grandparents, moved here from different countries, from Mexico and Italy. So it was very obvious this test is going to point back to Mexico and Italy. Okay? And then on my dad's side, my last name is Schell, S-H-E-L-L, German for loud and noisy. So we assumed there's some German in there. But we didn't know of anything exotic beyond that. There are lots of people in my dad's side of the family, blonde hair, blue eyes, red hair, blue eyes, lighter skin. So that's pretty much the genetic makeup, you know, on my dad's side of the family. And we didn't really know anything. And everyone's last name is things like Williamson. I don't know, just regular names that don't sound anything exotic outside of England, Scotland, Ireland, or even Germany, which is where our actual last name comes from. Okay, so my whole life, I knew that I was arguably about a quarter of Mexican DNA, meaning specifically Central American, Native American in Mexico, along with some Spanish and European, and always assumed that I should rank pretty high, close to a quarter Italian. There was always rumors that there was Greek and Italian in there as well. Well, I mean, not Italian, Greek and Jewish in there as well, in the Italian side. So I was expecting, okay, I won't be 25% Italian. I'll be like maybe 20%. Maybe I'll be like 2% Jewish and 3% Greek. I was expecting something like that. Okay? So, and then I figured the other half will be like, you know, English and Scottish and German. Okay, so that's what my expectations were. And you can see the advantage I had here. Because half of my DNA, going back to my great-grandparents, came from different nations altogether that were not Northern European countries. With that being said, the results were that For the European DNA, I am 37.4% North and Western European, but that's not English, it's not Finnish, it's not Irish, Scottish, Welsh, and it's not Scandinavian. So that implies that it's probably German, which is my last name. French, we know that my last name would have been Stallion, some kind of, like, I guess, French, but they never got married, so they didn't carry that name, so the name was Shell instead. So that's how I got the last name. So German and French, that's legit. That's about a third of my DNA, according to the test. And then 31.8% is Southern European. Specifically, it is Iberian. So Spanish, Portuguese. So that backs up my Mexican grandma's DNA there. And then moving on, I'm 8.4% Eastern European, specifically 6.1 is Eastern European, 2.3% is Balkan, okay? So, and then obviously, again, because of the Mexican history there, I'm 21.6% Central American, which indicates my Mexican grandma who was born here, she was about 80% Central American DNA and only had a little bit of the Spanish and European DNA in there. That's what that implies. And then I'm 0.8% Middle Eastern. So that's my breakdown, and it matches up. It's legit. It makes sense to me. And here's the margin of error, though. Here's what trips people up when they want to say that these tests are a scam. Okay? So the margins of error. At the beginning of this video, I explained that my great-grandparents came here from Italy. They had very Italian names. Even my grandfather himself, who was born here, he was born in Wisconsin, Kenosha, Wisconsin, Alberto Vittorio Metello, right? And his father basically only spoke Italian. I mean, they were very Italian, okay? But 0% Italian. My mom took the test, and even she only showed up, I think, like 4.5% Italian. But she showed up about 15.2% Sephardic Jewish and about 14% West Asian, which basically is Iran, Iraq, Turkey, that area. So in my mind, I think that's, well, that sounds Middle Eastern to me. I guess the right label is West Asian, but Iran, Iraq, Turkey. So actually, here were these people living in Italy. They were barely Italian. They were Italian enough to have the Italian last name, but even then, maybe they adopted it. I don't know. So, but see, it took me a while to deal with that and understand that Italian DNA, along with Spanish DNA and along with Greek DNA, is a mix. It's a Mediterranean mix, and there's going to be Jewish in there. There's going to be Mediterranean in there. There's going to be all those things in there. And I didn't know that until I took the test. My mom took the test, my sister took the test. My sister's barely Italian, she's only a couple percent, but none of it showed up on mine. And see, I also didn't understand either that between siblings, your DNA is probably going to show up a lot different unless you're twins. You get half of your DNA from each parent, but you don't know which half of their DNA you're going to get. You know? So I got a lot of the Spanish from my mom. I got a decent amount of the Native American via, Mexico, Central American. My sister didn't get as much as I did. Now, you could look at her and you might think, well, she looks more exotic than I do. Maybe you'd think that. But either way, you don't get this perfect assessment. It's a bit random. So I think what happens is, for people who are less seasoned to the concept of these DNA test results, they don't understand it and they want to blame the company. I'm convinced they're close enough that we can enjoy ourselves and be okay with it and not be angry and not have our blood pressure go up. I think we can look at these tests and say, hey, I didn't know that or that. Well, what's funny is we did always assume that we were part Jewish. I always just knew it and I felt it. And so for my mom to be 15% Sephardic Jewish, that just makes sense to me because, my growing up around an Italian American grandfather, everything he did and said, I thought, well, that's Italian of him. Everything's Italian of him. Well, maybe not. Maybe it was a Middle Eastern Jewish mix with a little bit of Italian culture in there too. But I never knew the difference. And it's when you explore these things that you start learning them. And, most of the videos I make on this channel are about this. And while I have a good understanding of it now, the truth is, I make a video like this and what happens? People leave comments, they start sharing their story, which from there branches off to new stories and it carries on the conversation. See, look, it's pretty fascinating that in the history of the world, this is the first time where we can find out a good idea of where we came from, and we can afford it. Even 5 years ago, this wasn't something we could really all afford to do and then look at each other's results on YouTube. You know, this is a phenomenon we're experiencing right now. So I'm making this video basically for anyone out there who is doubting that DNA tests are legit. For me, you can clearly tell it backed up everything that was said. And my most popular video on this channel is where my sister and I compare our results. My other popular ones are where it shows my mom backing up those tests too. So I think as far as having a good idea of being able to tell are these tests reliable or not, I think it's important to listen to a person like me who's got some sense of diversity and direct ancestors where they know where some of that DNA definitely came from. Because here's my point. If it showed up that I wasn't Spanish at all, and that I was not Central American, then I would be surprised. But they got that totally right. In the Southern European mix, I didn't know how mixed things were over there until I made videos and people explained it to me in the comments. So I think we all have a lot to learn. And then in the same way, we've got things to learn about international perceptions of how this works. Because in full confidence, I can say I'm a quarter Mexican because my grandmother was. But anyone outside of America hear that and they cringe. They think, you stupid American. I don't know if that was supposed to be a foreign accent. I didn't mean for it to be. But that's a global non-American accent saying, you stupid idiot. There's no such thing as a quarter Mexican. But in America, we say that and it's normal and we don't think each other are idiots. So there's a lot of things that kind of get lost in translation. And that's one of the things that makes these talks fascinating. Because I tend to learn something every week by making these videos. And I think even though I know so little about all this, I think what happens is I end up accidentally teaching you some things along the way. I do think the DNA test results are legit, and I think I'm a perfect example of that.